Good morning and welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining the broadcast this morning. I am incredibly excited to share something completely new with you today, a new way to build and use AI agents at work. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Mike Peach. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Appsmith, and I'm really excited to show you some more about the platform and take you a bit under the covers today. Our platform is designed to make it easy for knowledge workers, specifically those in customer-facing roles, to get more value out of AI. It allows teams to be more productive and companies to be much more efficient. It goes without saying that there is a ton of noise in the market today about AI. And frankly, it's mostly justified. There are no products in history that have been adopted as quickly. But a lot of the investment in the space is based on the assumption that AI is going to be used heavily in enterprise business settings, right? Business leaders expect this. 2/3 of them say that AI will fundamentally reshape their organizations. And technology companies expect this, which is why we see literally billions of dollars being spent to build out AI computing capacity, right? The premise behind this is that AI is going to really just unleash a wave of incredible, unprecedented productivity across teams and organizations. But there's a couple interesting things that are going on when we look in a little bit closer. First off, business adoption generally has lagged behind consumers when it comes to using Gen AI. And one of the things that we did is we were building out this product. We actually ran our own survey, a little over 200 knowledge workers across multiple industries. And we asked them questions about AI adoption, outcomes, and the challenges that they saw. And one of the key data points that popped up is the discrepancy between engineering, IT, and other, let's call them technical teams, and other knowledge workers when it comes to AI adoption. 75% of technical teams said they're actively using AI. Well, only about half of customer or HR teams said they were doing the same. And nearly a quarter of customer-facing teams, those in support, sales, and success roles, said they had no plans to use AI in their jobs moving forward at all. The other thing we saw was a notable difference in perceived outcomes. Technical teams, those in IT and engineering, were much more likely to report having positive experiences. 84% said that AI had a positive impact on their workload, whether that was just reducing it outright or allowing them to focus on higher value tasks. But only 67%, about 2/3 of customer teams, said the same thing. And even more kind of concerning, almost 10% of them said that AI had actually increased their workload. So what's going on here? Well, to get under the covers, we really have to look at sort of what is the work that these customer-facing teams are doing. And it really comes down to both that work and also the way that we tend to interact with AI tools today, right? And when we look at work, the importance of context really shows, right? Context is important to almost everything that customer teams do, right? So let's consider the example that I have illustrated here in this slide. A common task for a support team member, think like a frontline customer support rep, is to review support tickets that are submitted by customers, then troubleshoot or replicate the issue and look for solutions. Now, in theory, an AI agent could be really helpful in this situation, but it needs to know some things first. It needs to know what the task is, what the goal is, and the details around the problem and the specific help that a team member might need. This kind of, let's call it real-time context, is a really important component of almost all of the work or the processes that customer-facing teams do. And without this context, it's hard for AI to be super helpful. The second piece here is data. And data is kind of another key aspect of context if you think about it. So in addition to that sort of real-time task-specific information, customer teams need to access and use lots of internal company information that isn't necessarily publicly available, right? So for example, let's continue with this troubleshooting customer issue case. right? Support team member probably needs to retrieve some customer information from Salesforce. Maybe they need to reference product documentation or an internal wiki with a troubleshooting guide. And maybe they even need to go back through and like search bug reports that have been filed in, say, GitHub or Jira. But it's not just support use cases. Let's look at the example of a sales rep that's preparing for a customer meeting. The rep might need to review support tickets that the customer has submitted, again, possibly in a system like Zendesk. They need to look at usage or transaction data that might be stored in an internal database. And then they probably need to pull some contract and customer details from Salesforce. Again, these are all types of activities where an effective AI agent could be really helpful, but it, like these hypothetical employees, need to be able to access all of this data. If you think about sort of the large language models, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, they aren't trained on proprietary customer-specific information like this. So it's ultimately up to companies themselves to make this data usable in AI interactions. So this kind of brings us to AI tools. And hopefully the interface in this slide looks somewhat familiar. The reality is that, of course, you can bring context and data to AI interactions today, right? Most of the models now have pretty sizable context windows, which means you can add as much context as you want to the prompt. And in a lot of cases, you can even directly upload files that you want the model to reference when you're having a conversation. To get a little bit more fancy, right, you can set up and use retrieval augmented generation to create an internal authoritative knowledge base that the AI can use when it's answering questions from employees, right? But this is all complicated. Building a RAG pipeline, really, you need some machine learning and semantic search skills to pull it off. And I think part of the challenge of what we see is that prompt engineering it's more intuitive to folks who have experience with engineering or system instructions. And thus it's easier for them to get value out of the tools that exist today. But even leaving that aside, right, it's still a somewhat painful experience to have to constantly supply all of this context to every single AI interaction. And you can see why some people, especially customer-facing people, feel that it cumulatively adds to their workload rather than making life easy. So this is the challenge that we set out to solve with Appsmith agents. This is why we built Appsmith agents specifically for customer teams. And unlike standalone AI tools or application-specific agents, Appsmith agents are engineered around this idea of continuous context. So they automatically retrieve context from the environment in which they're embedded and can easily connect to a wide range of data across your company without having to do any complex engineering. The result is an agent that's always ready and always useful for customer teams. So with that, let me actually hop out and show you how this works. For this demo, I'm putting on my account manager hat, and let's assume that I'm getting ready for an upcoming meeting with a customer. And I'll start in the place where I do most of my work. I'm in sales. I spend most of my day in Salesforce. Here I'm looking at an account record. Provides me a summary of customer information, the status of their renewal opportunity, and a list of previous interactions that I've had with them. What it doesn't show me is a whole bunch of things too, right? It doesn't show me if they have any open support tickets. In our case, that information is in Zendesk. It doesn't show me how they're actually using the product relative to their contract terms. And it doesn't show me the status of any feature requests that they've made. So ordinarily, how would I get this information? Well, I got to hop across a bunch of different systems, log in, run reports, consolidate it all together in a spreadsheet or presentation. And I might even have to go have a meeting with someone on my product team to be able to pull some of that internal data about their usage or licensing entitlements that I couldn't otherwise find. So pretty time consuming. But today, I have an Appsmith agent to help me. Let me hop in and fire our agent. The sales agent is running as a Chrome plugin. So when I open it, it can immediately pick up the context of which account I'm looking at on my screen. So let's start by asking it for an account summary. So the agent is quickly searching through multiple data sources, and it provides me a summary of their contract status, recent support tickets, open feature requests, and product usage. So just with this one interaction, right, this summary alone is already a big time saver for me. And importantly, it shows me where I might want to drill in to get some more information, right? So in this case, let me ask it for some more details about the support tickets that the customer has opened. With this request, the agent has actually decided to execute a function call that generates a detailed customer 360 view, right? So now it's showing me billing information from Stripe, license details from an internal database, a list of support tickets that have been filed in Zendesk, any feature requests the customer has made, as well as usage trends. And if I want to, which I did, learn a little bit more about support tickets, I can click here and view more details about each support ticket, which loads in a custom UI component. So think about this. Without ever stepping away from Salesforce, I've been able to use the agent to find a whole range of relevant customer information to help me prepare for this meeting. And I can continue the conversation, drilling into any areas where I might want to learn some more and getting more details to have me ready for that discussion. So this was obviously just a really quick example, but hopefully you can get a glimpse of really the kind of incredible potential a tool like this has when it's deployed at scale across teams. As I said when we started, there's a lot of noise in the market around AI, and there are a lot of new AI tools getting launched every day. So what I tried to show here is what I think is really kind of unique about Appsmith agents. First off, our agents are designed to be embedded. They're not a separate tool. You can launch these contextual AI interactions from any application or tool that you're working in. I launched the agent in Salesforce, and it was able to immediately understand which account that I was looking at. Second thing is we've made it really easy to connect agents to all types of data sources across your company, whether that's documentation, whether that's documents, applications, or databases. Appsmith agents don't just converse with you. They have the ability to take action. So you can easily configure a whole set of automated actions or approval steps that agents can take. In the demo, the agent was able to find and run a report for me and call custom UI components to show me the Zendesk tickets. But that could just as easily go through and update Salesforce records or create an issue in Jira for the engineering team. All of those types of actions are available. And super important is Appsmith agents are security focused, right? So in addition to really robust user and data security, we provide tools to fully monitor and manage agent interactions. The ability to fully embed Appsmith agents in other applications is really significant. I mean, first off, it obviously makes agents easier to use because your teams don't have to hop around to another tool when they want to get AI help. A lot of the day-to-day challenges in their jobs are already across a number of different tools. So adding another one doesn't really help anything. But also, and probably more importantly, embedding allows the agent to retrieve context, right? So if I summon an agent within my Zendesk, it can immediately know which ticket I'm working on for which customer. Or as I showed earlier, if I load it in Salesforce, it knows which customer account that I'm looking at. Appsmith agents can share logins and permissions with these other applications via SSO, and so the experience can be completely seamless to me with the same permissions passed across both the agent and the application interactions. There are obviously a lot of ways that you can feed data into AI interactions, but as we talked about before, a lot of them are pretty complicated. And one of the key capabilities that we knew we had to provide with agents was the ability not just to allow a bunch of data integrations, but to really make them as easy as possible to set up. So I kind of like to call this one-click RAG, which is actually technically untrue because it involves a couple of clicks, but that's really about it, right? If you want to set up an agent to be able to communicate with your Salesforce, it's a couple clicks of a button and setting up an authentication. It's that easy. Any data that your agent uses can also be and will also be surfaced as citations, right? So For example, if I'm trying to recreate a customer issue and the agent gives me some troubleshooting steps, if it pulled that from, say, our internal documentation, I can actually click through and it'll show me where it referenced it. So I can double check the recommendations that an agent is making for me. So we call this AI agents. And I think it's important to understand, like, by definition, an agent is something more and more powerful than just a high quality chatbot, right? They need to be able to converse, yes, but they also need to be able to take actions in pursuit of a goal. Appsmith agent can leverage that same integration framework that I talked about before to take a range of automated actions across different applications. These actions are defined as function calls that you create as part of the agent setup. Function calls could be regular routine actions that are part of operational processes. For example, as I said, like creating a Jira issue when a customer reports a verified bug, or updating a Salesforce account record when a primary contact at a customer changes. But they can also trigger human-in-the-loop actions, like approvals for a customer refund. Agents can execute these functions or prompt users to take action based on the context, the situation, and the interactions they're having with team members. Now, anytime you ask about AI adoption in the enterprise, two big concerns pop up: accuracy and security. Over and over again, these are the biggest concerns with rolling out and adopting AI in the enterprise. Now, when we think about security, we initially sort of think about data and access controls, right? Is the agent only looking at data that it should have access to? And are users only able to access data and systems that they have permissions for? And yes, Appsmith Agents takes care of that. We've got robust user controls in place. So you can integrate Appsmith Agents with your SCIM provider to import users. You can define custom groups and access permissions. And user permissions extend out to the data source. So only data that a user has access to is ever used in agent interactions. For deployment security, Appsmith Agents can be self-hosted within your virtual private cloud, whether that's AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. And none of your proprietary data actually needs to be exposed externally. So in that scenario, all of the contextual data used for Appsmith Agents remains in your Appsmith instance. But accuracy is also a really important part of security. So it's not just about access controls, but it's also the information and the interactions that the agent takes, right? If an agent gives incorrect information or takes inappropriate actions, that in and of itself is also a way to think of as a security breach. So teams need the capability to monitor agent interactions and course correct when that's needed. Appsmith Agents provides pre-built monitoring templates that you can use to track your agents and fine-tune those interactions anytime you're not happy with either an action an agent takes or a response that it provides. So hopefully you can see why I'm personally so excited about this platform, and really all of us at Appsmith are. Appsmith Agents addresses some of the key challenges that we see around enterprise AI adoption, and specifically enables sales, support, and success teams to work much more efficiently and effectively. Context is really what makes Appsmith Agents different. By running in your team's existing tools, agents can immediately pick up context around current tasks. And by easily integrating data across your company, agents have all of the broader context needed to be able to effectively support your team. And all of these interactions respect individual access controls and data privileges of your teams. Appsmith Agents do not require specialized AI engineering resources. You can build agents that have a real, measurable impact on productivity without having to build complex RAG pipelines or fine-tuning LLMs or bringing in expensive consultants to set up something for you. It works pretty easily out of the box. So if any of this sounds interesting, I invite everyone to try out Appsmith Agents. Our preview edition is available today, and our team is standing by and available to help you get onboarded. So if you're interested, if you want to take a look at it, please go to appsmith.com/AI and sign up. Thank you all so much for your time today.